Yo, what up everyone, it's Taro. So today we gotten a new support card, and this is the card that people have been speculating for a while, and we've gotten it. And I don't know if we're gonna get more cards, but if this is the last card we're gonna get, then this is a very good card to end on. The new employee's name is DDD Sage King Alfred. It takes 2 DD monsters to make, which is easy, and it has 2 effects. So the first effect is, during your main phase, you can fuse 1 DDD fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling its materials from your hand, field, or banishment into the deck. So this is pretty much our own version of Lubellion, but this does not shuffle from the grave, so that's one difference. The second effect is, if this card becomes banished, you can target Dark Construct continuous spell or traps in your graveyard or banishment up to the number of DD monsters you control, place them face up on your field. So all this means is that you're gonna be using Zeus to banish Alfred any Dark Construct during the opponent's turn, and then Alfred is gonna trigger and he's gonna place every Dark Construct engrave or banishment face up to your field. And that gives mechanics pretty much infinite ammo to keep taking monsters from the opponent's field. So mechanics becomes more than 5 interruptions by himself, which is very broken. Now let's assume that you're playing against a Go in second deck and they baited Siegfried. So they go Duster and your back row is cleared. Now, that's usually not a good thing for DDD because you do need your back row to some extent. So what you could do at that point is that you negate something that they activate in hand with Zeus, and obviously can be banishing Alfred and a Dark Construct, and Alfred then will trigger to reset every Dark Construct that was destroyed. So this makes the board more layered into removal, which is very nice to have because if you lose your contract, your follow-up for next turn is heavily reduced, and sometimes you don't even have it, and mechanics becomes a dead card. So Alfred can pretty much give you back your follow-up while also making mechanics live again. This brings me to my next point, and that is that now you can actually end on a dead mechanics on your first turn, because sometimes when you're done with your combo, there are times where you actually don't end on a Dark Construct, which is a bit of an issue. But now you can actually end on a dead mechanics, and on the opponent's turn, Alfred will give you the contracts that you need for mechanics when you banish him with Zeus. So it's very beneficial that you end your turn with Alfred in the grave. That means that you don't use it as an excess material for Caesar, but even if it is gonna end up as material for Caesar, you can still detach him during the opponent's turn and then negate with Zeus later on. But it's very beneficial that you sequence in a way where Alfred ends up in the grave at the end phase, and that's not really hard to do because Clovis and Genghis can still be the materials for Caesar, and Alfred can be used as a link material for Gilgamesh or a synchro material for Siegfried. Another good thing about Alfred is that it makes High King Genghis playable again. So the problem with High King Genghis post-dude is that there was no good way to summon it. So in Bash DDD, the way to summon it was by using Swamp King or Swirl Slime. But those cards were cut post-dude, so the card was also cut alongside those two. But now you have Alfred, and Alfred is not only a 1-card Caesar, it's also a 1-card High King Genghis because it is a level 6 DD monster, and High King Genghis needs a level 5 or higher DD monster as material. So Alfred can pretty much act as the hard to get to material, and the other material would be any other DD monster. So Alfred pretty much makes it so that you have the option to play High King Genghis again, which is something that I personally like because I actually do like High King Genghis, and it's still a decent card to summon going second against back row decks. So I wouldn't say it's mandatory or standard or even advised to run High King Genghis again, but now you have the option because you actually have a good card to summon it with now. Before I get into the combos, I just want to say one last thing, and that is that the real value of Alfred is that it's not about, the many possibilities that it could open to new combos. The real value of this card is the fact that it provides you with follow-up, a way to recycle your monsters, and a way to interact during the opponent's turn in ways that the deck never had before. Because for the most part, Alfred is just another extension piece, and this deck has a lot of extension pieces, so that's nothing new. So Alfred is pretty much there to make ending on the full board more consistent. It also makes ending on win more boards more consistent. Overall, in my opinion, the most important thing about this card is the recursion it provides. And without further ado, let's just get to the combos. So this is gonna be a Kepler 1 card combo, and it's gonna be an example of a win more combo because we're gonna be ending on Bright Arma, which is not really a piece that you need to end on, and it's also a piece that's not played in every list. This sequence that you see right here is the safest way to combo with DDD because this line of play plays through imperm and Nibiru. You are gonna see this pattern being used a lot because it is the safest way to combo, and you are probably gonna see this in other combo videos as well. Now, in terms of playing orthros, it's really the player's choice if they want to run it or not. I personally think that it's valid if you want to run it. It's funny that orthros gets brought up every time a new card is announced for this deck. Some people say that we should cut it, some people say that you still need it. I don't think it's mandatory to play orthros, but I do like the fact that you can have access to 2 tuners, and I personally would still run it. And I don't agree with the notion that just because of Alfred you can cut orthros now, because orthros is still a good tuner and it's also backrow removal, so there is still value in the card in my opinion. As you can see, this board is pretty disgusting, but this board is considered win more because this board contains Headhunt and Bright Arma. These 2 cards are not always played in whatever list you might come across. Now, Headhunt is played more than Bright Arma, but the reason why this board is considered win more is because of Bright Arma, because this is basically not a piece that you need or you would need to waste resources on. The point of this combo is to showcase that the extension Alfred provides helps you end on win more boards like these much easier now. So in this combo, I'm gonna do the full board without using Orthros or Ragnarok. I will also be ending on Eternal Darkness, which means that this board counters Dark Ruler no more and Droplet if they don't send a trap card. Now you might wonder to yourself, well, why is this specific sequence the best way to play around Nibiru? It is because you already searched for Griffin before the 5th summon, and you also summoned Tel before the 5th summon, so that means that you have an extender in hand, and you also send another extender to the grave. So when you summon the Griffin from hand, it forces the opponent to nib you, because if they don't nib you at that specific moment, you link into Zeus, and then nib's gonna get negated later on. And if they nib you on Tel, you can still continue to play, because you still have not used Griffin or fused into Genghis. So we ended on the full board pretty much, and we ended on a floodgate as well, and Eternal pretty much solos decks like Yami, so this board is very tough to break, and I already mentioned, but this board also plays around Dark Ruler no more, or Droplet if they don't send a trap card. So this is another Kepler 1 card combo, and this one plays around K9, and it's also Nibiru proof. And I'll use Tel twice in this turn, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shuffle it back with Alfred, and then I'm gonna resummon it. And the thing about Alfred and Tel is that Tel can act as like an extra contract sender, because as I've told you before, Alfred can reset you contracts when banished. So Tel can act as an extra foolish or another contract. So you get to send Eternal, Errors, you get to send any contract that you want except Patent License, because Patent License is a field spell, but anything else is fair game. So you'll see me sending Witch later on in the combo with the second Tel Foolish. Then Alfred is gonna place, when I banish him with Zeus, the Witch that I sent to the grave, and every other dark contract available in the banish zone or graveyard face up on my field during the opponent's turn. So the witch could be eternal. What you would do is that you don't bounce queen to hand and you send eternal with Taro. So if you wanted to end on eternal instead of witch, you could still do it and you would still be able to floodgate the opponent. All you have to do is just send eternal and not bounce queen. So in this Kepler 1 card combo, we are gonna end on the full board with double Caesar. So we all know that when we use Fiendsmith, DDD can end on double Caesar, but now you don't even need to play Fiendsmith to end on double Caesar, because what you could do in the extra is play double Clovis. If you play double Clovis, you have the ability to actually end on double Caesar without the use of Fiendsmith. Now, this is just a combo for fun, not to mention that you also need the second copy of Caesar in the extra deck, so you need to find space for that too. The extra deck is very tight post Alfred. Playing double Clovis is probably not the best thing you could do. In fact, I've seen people say that we should cut Clovis now, but I personally don't agree with that sentiment. But as I've said, this is just a for fun combo and to showcase that there is a way to actually end on double Caesar post Alfred without the need of Fiendsmith. In fact, if you play Fiendsmith, I think you can actually end on triple Caesar. But that's a combo for another day. I do post some leftover combos sometimes on my Twitter, so if you ever want to see something you didn't see on these videos, then you could check out my Twitter. This is gonna be the last Kepler 1 card combo, and we are gonna be ending on the full board plus Headhunt and Eternal Darkness. This is gonna be an example of a 2-card combo. I'm gonna end on the full board with Eternal Darkness plus Headhunt and Patent License. So the opponent is gonna feel a full lockdown experience. And this board also counters Super Poly because Eternal is already face up, so they can't fuse with anything on the field. Now, you could also make this anti-Dark Ruler no more if you grab Eternal with Kepler instead of using Queen to place it face up. But the reason why I use Queen to place Eternal face up is to play around Super Poly, because if you choose to play around Dark Ruler no more, that means that your end board is susceptible to Super Poly. But if you choose to play around Super Poly, that means that the board is susceptible to Dark Ruler no more. So there's a key difference on how you set up. Alright, so now we're gonna get into the Gate 1 card combos. So this is gonna be a combo that plays through a Bystial being used on Lance Soldier. So despite the Bystial, I will still end on the full board plus Witch, and I'll also make use of Alfred's Banish effect in the end phase to place whatever Dark Construct I have in the graveyard or in the banished zone. I have an alternative way to sequence this. I'll showcase in the next combo where I also out the Magnamut. But in this combo, we're just gonna reduce the Magnamut by 1000, so it can't kill anything. in this version, we are gonna use Queen's Summon effect early on, which makes the line protected from Nib. The only downside is that I would have to use Alfred as an Xyz material for Caesar. But like I mentioned before, if you use Alfred as an Xyz material for Caesar, it's not really the end of the world, although it does make things a bit awkward with how you negate with Zeus or how you use Caesar. So this is gonna be gate 1 card combo through imperm on Gilgamesh. So this is where Alfred, being a 1 card Caesar, shines the most in lines like these, because Alfred is gonna allow us to end on Caesar, mechanics, and Siegfried minus Zeus through imperm on Gilgamesh. But it's pretty much gonna be the classic mechanics, Siegfried, and Caesar end board. This is the gate 1 card combo without orthros or ragnarok. So the point of these demonstrations where you do the combos without orthros or ragnarok is not me saying that you should cut orthros or ragnarok, but there are people who play this deck and say that you don't need those cards, and technically they are right to some extent, but ragnarok and orthros still hold value because the bricks in DDD are not really hard bricks, they are more like soft bricks because they will help you during your combo. So I think it's okay if you wanna run something like Ragnarok or Orthos, or even Thomas for that matter, although I would say Thomas is more of an OCG thing. But do not overdo it, otherwise you'll find yourself in a situation where you are playing a lot of one-off bricks, and that would be like Bash DDD. Okay, so this is gonna be a gate 1 card combo that plays through Nib on Tell. I'm also not gonna use Count Surveyor in this line because if I summon Count Surveyor here, it gives me an extra body and I search Copernicus, so it makes the line better. And I'm also not gonna use Orthros, so I am playing this on restrictions. So we are gonna still end on the full board through this Nib on Tell. I am not gonna quote unquote out the Nib, but King Tell will reduce Nib's attack. That way, Nib can't be a threat to anything on the board. But we're pretty much gonna end on everything. There's a lot of ways you can sequence this with the same restrictions, and there is one alternative way to sequence this that I've been messing around with the same restrictions and everything, where I summon Queen early on after I pop with Lance to get an extra body, and I still get nibbed on Tell before I go Gilgamesh. But that route can only end on Siegfried, Caesar, and Machinax with a construct, which is still a respectable board through Nib. But I was looking for a way to end on everything, and after messing around for too long, this is the only route where I actually can end on everything post Nib on Tell. Okay, so the final gate line that I will show is a line that I made for fun. So this is a line that I made when I saw a conversation about the use of Alfred's banish effect when you go first. The problem with that discussion is that nobody figured a way to banish Alfred going first. Now, having messed around, I did find a way to banish Alfred going first, and that is by using the Swamp King contract. Also using High King Genghis in this combo so I can go into Light Arma. So I'm gonna end on the full board while also utilizing Alfred's banish effect going first. Now again, this line is for fun, and the banish effect of Alfred is not really meant to be used when you go first, but again, I only made this line because of that one conversation. I guess I'll wrap the last section with some queen combos, and in this combo I'm gonna end on the full board plus headhunt and eternal darkness, and I'm also gonna do this combo without using clovis. So it's all gonna be down to Alfred and Genghis. The only downside in this combo is that Alfred is gonna be used as an excess material for Caesar, but as I've said before, that's not the end of the world. But this is a prime example why Clovis is not cuttable. Even without this example, you can't cut Clovis because the card is just too good to cut. But Alfred's banish effect is so good that you would want it in the grave. So while it is true that Alfred can make Caesar without Clovis, you still need Clovis to be the material instead of Alfred, because you want Alfred in the grave, because he makes the Zeus negate gain a lot of value. So for this combo, it's gonna be Queen 1-card combo, and we're gonna play around Lancea. We are not gonna be using Alfred in this combo, nor Genghis, because we can't fuse with a Necro Slime. But we are gonna use Clovis, and we gotta get to a point where we're gonna use Lance on Griffin to turn it into a level 6. That way we have materials for Caesar, and then we're gonna end on the full board. Although we're not gonna end on a contract, but we will end on a live mechanics. This is a combo where I'd say that shows a prime example why Clovis is not a cuttable card, because under Lancea you would need a card like Clovis to play through it, and if I did cut Clovis for this combo line, then I would not be ending on Caesar, because there's just no way to get to Caesar without going through Alfred or Genghis. So here I'm using Lance to turn Griffin to a level 6. That way we can summon Caesar. And we're gonna search for Scale Surveyor here, and we're gonna summon it and leave it at level 2. And Scale will give us back Queen to hand as follow-up for next turn. So this is gonna be Queen 1-card combo ending on the full board plus Eternal Darkness. This is gonna be the last combo that I show, and I could have shown more, but I didn't want this video to be too long. The whole purpose of this video is to showcase Alfred and focus on him, which I hope I served the purpose of that. Because this is still the same deck, but with a new extender. And as I've said before, this deck has a lot of extenders, so getting another one was nothing new. But the most exciting thing about Alfred joining the DD Corporation is the fact that he actually brings something new to the table, which is the recursion, the recycle aspect, and the much needed follow-up aspect. Now, Alfred did bring trouble with him. So before he was announced, the extra deck was already tight, but post-Alfred, the extra deck is so unbearable to fit in 15 now, unless you're one of those players who say that we should cut Small Caesar, one copy of Gilgamesh, and Clovis, which is something that I personally don't agree with. This is the list that I've been testing with. DD is a never-ending cycle of change type of deck, so what you see on screen is probably not something that I would consider a final list. I'm still testing stuff, but this list has been working fine for me before Alfred, I would need to like test it post Alfred now. And in terms of like the extra deck, I feel fine with this extra. There's a lot yet to be discovered about Alfred, and one of the things that I want to discover is if it can actually make Big Genghis legitimately viable again, and I would only know that if I test. So I will get to that as soon as I can. But that is it for me, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please support the channel by considering to subscribe or liking the video. Also, if you don't know, I have started streaming on Twitch these past couple of days. So if you ever want to watch me play DDD live on stream in Macedon, then you should probably check some of my streams when you can. So that's it for me. This is Taro signing out.